2023 meeting of the Hinsdale Zoning Board of Appeals to order, please. Rob, roll call.
Sure. Member Moberly?
Here.
Member O'Brien?
Here.
Member Murphy?
Here.
Member Lee?
Here.
Member Podliska?
Here.
Chairman Neiman.
Here. So I've been asked first to read a fundraising plea regarding the 150th anniversary of the village and the plaza and roof railing campaign. The 150th campaign is up and running. To date, the village has received over $35,000 in donations from our residents and local businesses, which is terrific. Staff and board members are currently finalizing the project details and plans. They have an eye towards value engineering. They're working to ensure long-lasting materials are used, the landscaping is robust, and finalizing an appropriate timeline for execution. About donation levels, the campaign has 6 different donation levels. Businesses who participate will receive a window cling showing their support. Residents and families who donate will receive a yard sign showing their support. And depending on donation amount, donors will be recognized on a plaque near the patio. All contributions are tax deductible. Campaign target deadline is December 31. 100 years ago, Hinsdale came together to fund a working memorial to honor those Hinsdalians who fought in our world wars. Hinsdalians came together and funded this building, our very own memorial building. Let's keep that memory alive. Let's keep the honor alive. Let's keep that sense of community alive. And so anyone who's listening to tonight's meeting, I encourage you to make a donation. Thank you.
Ski that off some coffee. That's pretty good.
You can call me Anchorman, Bob. Okay. Next item on our agenda is approval of our September 2023 minutes as amended already by Mr. Podliska. Anything else?
I did not find anything else. And if no one else did, I will move to accept the minutes of the last meeting.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Moberly?
Abstain.
Member O'Brien?
Yes.
Member Murphy?
Yes.
Member Lee?
Yes.
Member Podliska?
Yes.
Chairman Neiman.
I too will abstain since I didn't attend the September meeting. But that's enough to pass it, right? To approve the minutes, Rob?
Just enough.
Yeah.
Yes.
4.
Just enough.
Okay. There are no approvals of final decisions or findings of fact. We need not do appearances. And I suspect, is it accurate to say that the people who are attending the meeting are all here on 100 East Maple Street?
We're 110 East Maple Street on behalf of 100 as well.
Okay, got it. So there's no requests, motions, pleadings, or requests to make public comment of a general nature because there's no one else here. So let's go to the pre-hearing case V-03-23, 110-100 East Maple Street. And if you could state your name for the record. So,
Is this on? All
well,
right.
no, it's not for a pre-hearing. right.
Adam Marford.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
All right.
So here's how this works, because I suspect you've never done this.
Never. No.
If you could take us through generally, I mean, we've read this.
Yep.
We know what it's about, and this is just a pre-hearing to get us acquainted more with what you're trying to do and why. And we may have some questions or suggestions for the next meeting when we'll actually take a vote on whether to approve the variance. So if you could just give us a kind of 30,000-foot overview of
Sure.
what you're trying to do and why, and what the precise issue is, and then anybody who has questions will ask questions.
Sure. And I just read over this memo, which will say anything better than I will today. And this is my wife Abigail, who submitted all the paperwork, so she'll probably speak up as well. But so we're on 110 East Maple. you've probably had a chance to drive by it. It's a pretty small lot. Our neighbor 106 East Maple, that property came up. We put an offer on it with the intent of, at the time, either maybe it's a rental opportunity, and then in the future we can take it down and expand our yard. But we purchased it, realized the house was in really, really poor shape. We had to take it down regardless of what we wanted to do.
So it looks like a cemetery right now.
Yes, now
for
it is
Halloween. Somebody likes
a
Halloween.
cemetery, and if
Okay,
this doesn't
alright,
go through it, it will remain that way. Yeah, so we took the house down with the intention of putting on a small addition to our house. During this process, we realized, actually through the purchase, that there was an easement on 106 that 100 East Maple has. So that was a whole nother loop we had to go through. So what we're trying to do is right now is combine the properties and then subdivide the other portion to our neighbors to take care of the easement that's been in place since the 70s.
You're making 2 properties out of 3.
Correct, yeah, yep. So 90% of the property will come into ours, the other 10% will go into 100.
Okay, so the good news is, for a change, someone's trying to make properties less dense rather than more dense. That's generally a good thing.
Okay, yep. Yeah, and I guess why we're here is now the properties are, and they probably were prior, non-conforming.
Okay, and then perhaps you could address the specific variance that you need and generally why you need it, and then I might have a couple questions and we'll see if anybody else does.
Sure, and I think the 2, correct me if I'm wrong, are the garages, right? Yeah, so our garage, she did it all.
Feel free to read it, I just
Oh,
read the
yeah.
We're a
fundraising
team.
thing. It's
AJ,
okay.
you wanna get up here? Yeah.
So we require, the 110 and 100 East Maple lots, the required corner yard setback and your interior yard setback on each lot increases as well. So while the houses and the garages currently are not moving, per the code, we need to request some relief on 100 East Maple of 8 feet of relief on the corner side, yard requirement, and then 3.7 feet of relief on the interior yard requirement. And then on the 110 East Maple property, we need to request 4.92 feet of relief on the interior side yard requirement for the existing buildings that will remain on the property, even with the new lot structures. And then I think what happens is 100 will still be a legal non-conforming lot, but will be closer to meeting the legal requirements of the zoning code. And then 110 will become a conforming lot with the larger square footage and meeting the current code requirements.
Any of the board members have any questions?
You're gonna
So
do
far.
an addition as well? Is that gonna change things? Is that gonna mean that you need a bigger, is it gonna get toward the,
It's
ahead.
gonna be wider. We're gonna be adding a powder room, mud room, and an attached garage. So it'll just come over to the west slightly into that new lot.
but it's not gonna mean they need more setback when they?
No, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've been working with Bethany on trying to get the house into the overlay district and take advantage of the overlay program?
Yes, we want to do that,
So
yes.
staff's already taken a look at this subdivision in the context of this future addition.
Okay.
Making sure that it's gonna be fully code compliant post subdivision.
Okay, so
Okay.
if we grant the variance that's before us already, then both homes will then be in compliance.
Yes.
The amount of the variance that you need, is that influenced by the fact that you're gonna be adding an addition? In
It's-
other words, do you need more of a variance because you're adding an addition to your house?
It's not, it's not related to the addition, it's on the existing structures.
So whether
Some of
you
the
did the
extra
addition or
width.
not, you'd be asking for the same variance?
Correct.
Okay.
It's because of the extra width.
So the addition is going closest to that middle lot, it's on
Correct.
that side?
Yes.
Not on the side where you could run into an issue?
Correct,
No.
yeah.
Got it.
That's one of the reasons why we wanted to do the addition, because we have a
There's no
very
room.
narrow, weird driveway that sort of snakes back into
Okay.
our garage.
Any other questions from the board?
I'm good.
What's the existing deficiency on the 100 East Maple property? I know it's a non-conforming use now, it'll remain a permitted non-conforming use, but I'm wondering what the existing, how short are they currently with regard to the distance required?
I don't know that I have that information. I know that from what I've read, they won't meet the square footage requirements of the lot, which I think is 10,000 square feet. They get closer to that, nearing 8,000 square feet with a new lot. But I don't unfortunately know the answer, but I can.
Curious to know.
So
thought we were saying
I
about the
can- I
garage.
can help with
Curious
that.
to know what
So
the delta is.
the 8 foot of corner side yard relief is directly related to that conforming question. So while the setback, right, will still be non-conforming, while the 8 foot of relief would arguably remove the non-conforming corner side yard setback issue, the lot's still gonna be smaller than the 10,000 square feet that R4 district requires.
Understood.
And the reason that they're deeding over that property, that 10 foot, is to remove the encroachment of that existing garage with enough that it'll be compliant with respect to the interior side yard. And the reason they need the relief on the garages is because if those garages fell fully within the rear 20% of the lots, they could go as close as 2 foot from the side. But because they encroach kind of the buildable area of the lot, they need to hold the same setback as what the house would require, if that makes sense.
Any other questions from the board?
I'm good.
Okay, so let me explain what happens next month and give you a couple, make a couple suggestions. So the standards for variation under section 4 of your application are the standards that we have to say, yes, you've met all those standards in order to vote to approve the variance. There are a couple things that I'd like to see you you don't have to answer this now, you don't have to think really fast. Give it some thought and address these issues next month. So, first, whether or not it's self-created, which is the second criteria, is something that we always struggle with in situations like this, because what goes through, well, I can't speak for the other board members, what goes through my head is, well, if you hadn't bought the other lot and planned on subdivided it, then none of this would be an issue. And so didn't the fact that you bought the other lot and then you want to subdivide it, isn't that a self-creation? And in my view, that's not, I don't think, what that criteria goes to, but you should give some thought to how you want to say, we didn't create it, it's just happened because we decided to tear the house down and that tipped the dominoes and here we are.
Okay.
Or something like that. I don't want to suggest to you how you argue it to meet the criteria, but be prepared to address that. The other one, and I wrote, so under subsection D, not merely a special privilege, and you wrote that the two homeowners do not seek any special privilege for this variation, which is, yes, that's the standard, that it can't be a special privilege, but merely stating that that's not what you're doing doesn't convince me that that's not what you're doing. I'm not in any way implying that is what you're doing. I completely understand that you're trying to make 3 properties into 2, make the area less dense rather than more dense, which is, trust me when I tell you, a welcome change to what we normally hear about. And I don't see that being an issue. Just be prepared to explain why it's not a special privilege. Don't just come here and say, oh, it's not a special privilege, because I'm going to ask you why.
Okay.
And I don't want to have to put you on the spot because my personal gut reaction, I can't speak for the board, is this is a pretty easy one. So not to worry, but be prepared to address those issues.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
Have you heard anything from neighbors?
True. People have stopped by and given me hugs. And said, like,
It's all
thank you.
positive.
That's
We
what
were
I
so
expected.
excited for you. Like, you know, you're changing the dynamic on the track sides of Maple. So I think people are really happy. So yeah,
The people at
Benson.
100, are they happy?
they are happy.
Well, I think they would be. They're getting free
we
land
both
or
kind of
something.
inherited this easement, so they're
Okay.
sort of like, well, we kind of have to do this because it makes sense. If we ever want to sell, then we don't have this easement hanging over us. So they've been super like responsive, and they'll come on to the next meeting with us, just so we're all sort of a united front. But yeah, they've been great. So
Surprising sometimes what neighbors.
yeah, you never
Yeah.
know. We sort of
It's
like
all been
sent them a
positive.
note. We're like,
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, sure, that's great,
That's good.
perfect. So
Great. Any other questions? We'll see you next month.
all
All
right,
right,
great.
perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Is she wearing a Christmas sweater? And it's not even Halloween yet. I can't wait till the next meeting, see what she wears.
Okay, there are no public hearings. Anybody have any new business? Any old business? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion
So
adjourned.
moved.
Second?
Rob, roll call, please.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
I was.
Who made the motion? I thought you were the motion. Did you, Tom? All right. I'm sorry. Member Moberly?
Yes.
Member O'Brien?
Yes.
Member Murphy?
Yes.
Member Lee?
Yes.
Member Podliska?
Yes.
Chairman Neiman?
Yes. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, sure.